Last volume, I low-key got blasted for not liking the Volume 6 premiere. I hope I don't get blasted for having a completely blank opinion on this one. I'm not going to say it's bad, it's far from it, but I honestly I was completely blank through this one. It rather fittingly left me cold up until the intro played, which was good, but that's for later. Throughout the majority of this episode, I felt it was just going through the motions. They approach Atlas, what's going to cause them to land? They landed, who's Maria going to take him to? Maria talking to this guy, when is Penny going to show up? Wait a minute, they're having a normal conversation for once? When are the Grimm going to spontaneously appear to fuck it up? Oh hey look, 2 things I expected at once. Then this, but I saw that coming because of the trailer. That's not to say it was necessarily bad. I've just been watching RWBY long enough to know that they're going to do these things when they're going to do these things. It was so inevitable to me that they'd land on the ground, Maria Rice would just know somebody to go to, then when they got there I immediately knew this guy made Penny and that something grim involved would happen to get them out of there, and that they'd end up with the fight scene and capture scene from the trailer. What I didn't expect was that Penny has made her full transformation into a Murakumo unit. Oh, just to be clear, whenever I refer to things by something they're similar to in the future, I'm not calling out RWBY or anything else for ripping it off like Floof might. I just like calling things by the name of similar things sometimes. It's a quirk of mine. Before I talk about what I dislike though, how about I talk about what I do like? Everyone likes a bit of positivity. Pietro seemed like a really kind old man. He was pleasant enough to watch throughout. I didn't really have a problem with him. Penny, I have a bit of a twinge of disappointment over, but honestly she was the best part of the episode for me, and this is coming from someone who doesn't really care for Penny, and didn't really like her after Volume 2 tried to make it seem like a big shot that the girl who acts like a robot is a robot. But I did find her really charming in this episode. As for everyone else, I don't really care about most of these characters at this point. I still like Nora and Ren because Nora still pulls a funny moment out on occasion, except in Volume 5, and Ren because he's the only one that doesn't scream obnoxiously or take up more screen time than is necessary. Also, I did like Blake in Volume 6 for being the only member of Team RWBY whose stupid actions make sense for a character. Well, some of them. But all in all, when I saw the Smilodon Grimm, I just sort of... no, positives. Look at the positives. I liked the intro. I really did. The music wasn't anything special. I mean, to me they peaked with Time to Say Goodbye. When it falls sounded like it was trying to be too hard to be cool. Let's Just Live is really bland. And the others I legitimately don't remember the names of. And I remember who Roy Stallion is. This intro, like the last few, has had some really bland music. And I'm not expecting Battle Beast to follow the cipher from RWBY. Just something I can remember. Something that I might hum or quote like a lyric I really like every now and again. Although I probably will remember it after Caleb does a cover and breathes some life into it, but that's not RWBY that's getting the positives there. I just like the presentation of the intro though, and if I'm to be honest, I mostly got caught up in this scene. I really like these sort of shots where characters with multiple eras in their story switch through them over the course of one scene. Kind of like the end of the Naruto and Sasuke fight from that show I couldn't be bothered watching. But now let's talk about what I didn't like. The negatives. The keyword here is opinion. Penny, while entertaining, did just one of the things I wanted to see when she inevitably returned. Yes, I'm one of the literally everyone in the fan base who saw Penny coming back from a mile away because a robot. If you didn't see it coming, it's fine. It was hyperbole for comedic effect. However, I was also one of those people hoping that Penny wouldn't have memories of RWBY so we could have some real emotion in this show, as RWBY suddenly feels like a friend she has lost has returned to her, but then just as soon realizes her friend is gone forever and has been replaced by someone different. It wouldn't necessarily be original, but RWBY is such a blank slate at this point that anything would please me. I was also extremely disappointed to see that RWBY had failed to fix the biggest flaw in their fight scenes in Volume 5, and I say Volume 5 because Volume 6 didn't have this problem as often due to a complete lack of fight scenes for the most of it, and the fact that they almost always involved a very small amount of characters or had characters spread very far away. Not that they didn't have this problem, they still did, but it was much less prevalent than in Volumes 4 and 5, in which there was a problem of everyone knowing instant transmission and how to cease existing. Volume 7 trailer made me concerned, but not enough to bring it up in my video. I had hopes that with some new direction this problem would be fixed. No. Not only was this fight scene so boring, so tiringly expected, lacking in any unique substance, fun, awesome moments, or spectacle that RWBY didn't have prior, that for almost the entirety of it I was doing one of two things, either staring blankly at my screen or noticing characters no longer existing between shots. When I first saw that RWBY was not being impulsive, but Yang and Ren were the first end of the fight, I was like, oh no, they didn't remember that RWBY is the impulsive, naive one who would jump first into a fight in almost every situation. But when Nora jumped away and a cat attacked John, I almost immediately forgot that and replaced the thought with simply, oh no. And yes, it happens throughout. Characters just spontaneously cease and uncease depending on if they're needed in the shot, which is lazy. It is extremely lazy. It better not be like Volume 5 where the Blu-ray they added them in, but in the actual episode that the majority of your fan base are going to watch, you didn't. I mean, given out Volume 5 when how many people do you think actually bought the Blu-ray? This is just so lazy. Volume 6 ended 9 and a bit months ago. You had all that time, and better yet, you could have just delayed Volume 7 if it wasn't enough time to really polish your product. I'm not going to say something like, oh, I mean, when I do a sprite animation, I don't have these issues very often, because, well, there's another video I'm making that will discuss animation and stuff, and how I can't really apply sprite animation things to this kind of animation, but no. Who needs polish, right? You're only doing one of the biggest web shows on the planet. I'm willing to bet the biggest web-based franchise on the planet. I wouldn't be so mad if the series hadn't set a precedent of having good first episodes. With the exception of Volume 6 that left me just as cold, and Volume 3 that was just alright, Volumes 1, 2, 4, and 5 had some really good first episodes, and I've made it no secret that the first 3 episodes of Volume 5 I don't hate. Not to say Episode 3 is good, but for Volume 5 standards it fucking is. Look, I don't want to sugarcoat how I feel about the episode. It's not good, but I also don't want to overplay how I feel either. It's not bad. It's sitting in that middle ground for me. I get that some people might like it because the aesthetics are different. They didn't use matte paintings for Atlas, and Penny came back. But I'm not going to say an episode is good just because it's not completely incompetent and lacking in surprises. A big thing about saying something is good is based on entertainment as well, and I understand that some people might find this entertaining, but talking about how I felt watching it, and not how people I've never met felt watching it, the only time the episode really made me smile was when Penny was talking with Ruby and when the intro played this scene. Do y'all expect me to just know how everyone feels and talk about that? I'm talking about how I felt watching the episode. And those two scenes, they kind of remind me about what I really liked about the first few volumes of RWBY, and to an extent even Volume 4. And I really do hope the rest of this volume follows suit. This episode had shades of classic RWBY in it, back when it wasn't trying to be super dark, edgy, and serious, and really having all this political commentary it wasn't equipped to tackle. But when it knew how silly it was, and really embraced that for the sake of making a fun, entertaining product above everything else. I know there are some people who don't care about vapid, brainless entertainment, and I understand that. Some people find more entertainment from being able to analyze and dissect something. However, I kind of like watching something for what it was intended for. And RWBY is one of those rare cases where that intent changes midway through the show, and at this point it's earlier than midway, because now it's no longer midway Volume 3. And while Volume 4 was competent in how it tackled these more serious issues, because it did retain a level of self-awareness, by Volume 5 it just got really bad. I could never see a food fight or a card game in the newer volumes of RWBY because those things require a certain level of self-awareness that the show currently lacks. But I will have faith the volume could fix that. It is the first episode, and while it's a pretty bad first episode by RWBY standards, and I hope it happening 2 volumes in a row isn't a sign of anything, it wasn't as bad as I think a lot of people expected. And on a final note, Crow's voice. I said it was good in the trailer, but in this episode, I don't know. There were a lot of lines that didn't sound like Crow to me. They sounded like someone doing a bad imitation. There were also a lot of lines where it did just sound like Vic. Just sounded like Crow normally does. And I'm not going to say this guy's voice is bad or that I could do any better, but I really hope this was only because it was the first episode the guy recorded, and I hope he gets better at maintaining that voice as the volume goes on. I'm not going to condemn a guy for not being Vic. They needed someone to voice Crow. Even if he were to die in the first episode, which he didn't, they would still need someone to voice him. Also, how didn't Penny cut Blake in half? Look at that.